dark psychology about females. There's something that rarely gets talked about, honestly. Something that gets labeled dangerous, manipulative, even toxic, when really it's one of the most sophisticated forms of human intelligence ever studied. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the dark psychology of females. And before you close this video thinking this is going to be an attack, stay with me, because what you're about to hear might completely change how you see yourself or the women in your life. The truth is, what society calls dark in women is often just depth. It's emotional intelligence operating at a level most people can't even recognize, let alone understand. It's strategy mistaken for manipulation, sensitivity mistaken for weakness being used as strength, and awareness mistaken for control. So let's break this down. 6 psychological truths about females that the world gets completely wrong. Number 1. Women are wired for emotional warfare, and that's actually a superpower. Psychology shows that women, on average, have a higher capacity for what researchers call affective empathy, the ability to not just understand how someone feels, but to feel it with them. Studies from Cambridge University found that females consistently score higher on empathy quotient assessments than males. But here's where it gets interesting. That same emotional sensitivity that allows a woman to comfort someone in pain also allows her to read people with extraordinary accuracy. She notices the micro-expression that crosses your face for half a second. She hears the slight change in your tone. She remembers that 3 weeks ago you said something that contradicts what you're saying right now. People call this manipulation. Psychologists call it social intelligence. The woman who seems like she's playing a game isn't being calculating for fun. She's been trained by a world that didn't take her words seriously to communicate through patterns, observation, and emotional data. She adapted, and that adaptation is nothing short of brilliant. Number 2, the silent treatment isn't cruelty, it's psychological self-preservation. We've all heard it. She went cold, she shut down, she stopped talking, and I had no idea why. Research in behavioral psychology tells us that emotional withdrawal, what we commonly call the silent treatment, is frequently used by women not as a weapon, but as a survival mechanism. When a person has learned, often from childhood, that expressing anger directly leads to punishment, dismissal, or being labeled too emotional, they learn to go quiet instead. The silence becomes a boundary. It becomes controlled emotion in a world that told her uncontrolled emotion makes her hysterical. Dr. John Gottman's decades of relationship research show that emotional stonewalling typically begins as a way to regulate overwhelming internal feelings, not to hurt the other person. Think about the woman in your life who goes quiet after conflict. She isn't punishing you. She is protecting herself from a flood she doesn't trust herself or you to survive. That silence is not emptiness, it is volume turned inward. Number 3, women use social networks as psychological armor. Have you ever wondered why women tend to process things by talking to their friends? Why they seem to build alliances, share information, and maintain such complex social webs? Research indicates that under stress, while men tend toward fight or flight, women more commonly exhibit what UCLA researchers Shelley Taylor and Laura Klein called the tend and befriend response. Women bond, they gather, they share intelligence. And yes, in darker moments, this same instinct can look like gossip, like alliances against someone, like social maneuvering. But strip away the judgment and you see what it really is. A deeply intelligent collective defense system. A woman who builds strong social bonds isn't being cliquey or two-faced. She is constructing a psychological safety net, one that has, for thousands of years, kept women and their children alive when physical strength alone wasn't enough. The mean girl narrative misses the deeper truth. Women's social behavior is complex because the world they navigate is complex. Their social intelligence didn't come from a place of malice, it came from necessity. Number 4. Her intuition isn't mystical, it's years of compressed data processing. She just knew something was off. I can't explain it, she just sensed it. How did she figure that out so fast? We romanticize female intuition. We also dismiss it, but psychology gives us a much more grounded explanation. Research in cognitive science shows that intuition is essentially the brain's ability to draw on a vast library of subconscious pattern recognition. Every social interaction, every emotional experience, every moment of reading a room, it all gets filed away. Women who are socialized from an early age to pay close attention to social dynamics and emotional cues build an enormous internal database. When something feels wrong to her, when she looks at you and knows you're lying even though you said the right words, that's not magic. That is thousands of hours of data being processed faster than conscious thought can catch up. Gavin de Becker, in his landmark work on the psychology of fear, wrote about how intuition is often the unconscious mind recognizing danger before the conscious mind has the language for it. Women who have historically needed to detect threats in social environments where physical confrontation wasn't always an option have developed this processing ability to a remarkable degree. Don't call it a hunch, call it what it is: precision threat assessment. Number 5. The guilt she makes you feel, she learned that from a world that made her feel it first. This one is going to land differently for some of you. Psychology shows that guilt induction, the ability to make someone feel responsible for your emotional state, is a behavior that appears more frequently in women, according to several studies on interpersonal influence tactics. And immediately people say manipulation, toxic, emotional abuse. But slow down. Developmental psychology research consistently shows that guilt induction is almost always a learned behavior, absorbed in environments where direct requests were not honored, where needs were dismissed, and where emotional expression was the only available currency. A woman who learned early that saying, "I need help," got her ignored, but breaking down made people respond. She didn't choose that strategy consciously. It was conditioned into her. She learned the only language that got heard. This doesn't excuse behavior that genuinely harms others, but it reframes its origin. She isn't manipulating you because she's evil. She is communicating in the only dialect she was taught. The healing comes when she's given a space where the direct request is actually heard, where she doesn't have to translate her needs into emotional emergencies just to be taken seriously. Number 6. Her attachment intensity isn't instability, it's depth of investment. Psychology labels it anxious attachment. The world calls her clingy, intense, too much. She texts too fast. She needs too much reassurance. She reads into everything. But here is what attachment research actually tells us. Anxious attachment patterns almost universally develop in response to inconsistent caregiving. When love was unpredictable, when affection was given and then withdrawn, when safety was never quite certain. The woman who seems too attached isn't broken. She is someone whose nervous system learned that connection is precious and precarious and worth fighting for. Her intensity is not a flaw in her character, it is a scar from her history. Research also shows that people with anxious attachment, when placed in secure relationships, often develop into extraordinarily loyal, emotionally present, and deeply committed partners. The very thing that looks like chaos in the wrong relationship becomes depth in the right one. Her love isn't too much, the wrong environments just weren't built to hold it. So here's what I want you to take away from all of this. The dark psychology of females isn't dark at all. It's complex, it's layered. It's the result of brilliant minds and sensitive souls navigating a world that spent centuries telling them to be smaller, quieter, less. Every behavior we've talked about today, the emotional reading, the silence, the social bonding, the intuition, the guilt, the attachment, none of it appeared out of nowhere. It was built, carefully, over time, in response to real experiences. It is psychology in motion. It is adaptation. It is survival dressed up in behaviors we don't always know how to read. If you see yourself in any of this, if something here made you feel seen, I want you to hear this clearly. There is nothing wrong with you. There never was. You are not too much. You are not manipulative for being strategic. You are not crazy for trusting your instincts. You are not broken for loving deeply. You are someone who learned to move through the world with every tool available to you. And that is not darkness. That is intelligence. If this video gave you something to think about, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want more content that goes deep on psychology, personality, and the hidden forces shaping human behavior, subscribe, because we're just getting started.